Hey, welcome back, everybody. I started a video talking about when I went to basic training in 1986 while I was driving my car today, and I wanted to just sort of continue a little bit along that lines. And I'd gotten to the point where I'd spoken about my first time I got the chance to call home, and man, I remember that so well and how emotional it was. And my grandma, when she answered the phone, how just the relief just was just was just too much. I hadn't. Uh, it was a lot, but I just realized I've got a scar here, and I see it right here. It's from my back operation between my C5 and C6, I believe, right here in the back. I had a herniated disc and had a back operation some years ago. But anyway, um, yeah, it was. It was. You can see back here. I'm watching a documentary, color, World War II in color, and you can start to see my shelves are getting a little more empty as I'm putting books away in boxes because I've been collecting banana boxes. So, and they're really good. They're really good. But I definitely highly suggest collecting those banana boxes. When you want to move. But yeah, I mean, it was such an emotional time, and I remember, you know, I just remember how tough that was, and that first time calling back home. But one thing I loved about basic training was the letters I got. I mean, I got letters, motivational letters from family and that kind of stuff, and friends, and my mom. She used to write me these crazy letters, just basically telling me just how lucky I was to have a job and being in the military and this kind of stuff, because this is back in '86 when there were still a lot of financial problems going on in the United States. Well, just like there has always been for a while now, but this was a tough time. And people ask me, why didn't I go to university and this kind of stuff? Well, two reasons. Number one, I was stupid and I was in a bit of a hurry. I wanted to get in the military. I wanted to do some things. And secondly, I didn't think being an officer would help me to achieve what I wanted to do, because I love being on the line. When I tell you, being in that platoon atmosphere was just one of my favorite things. When I was a soldier, I loved what it meant to be in a team, a squad, in a platoon, and it was one of my favorite times of my life, I would say. I really enjoyed it. But still, basic training, it was. I didn't find it that difficult. Like I said, I told you about how in the very last week I got in trouble, and I think everybody, has these ups and downs, and I was still so young and dumb. But I remember, getting back home, and it's a really funny story. There's a guy in my platoon. His name was Toddy. We called him Toddy. I don't remember his last name. He's a really big, tall guy from Alexandria, African American, and he was a big guy. I mean, he was like, a whole foot taller than I was, and I'm 6 foot. And or at least he seemed that way. He was a big kid, and I believe he was in the Louisiana National Guard or something like that. And but he was a big guy, and we had taken the bus back to Louisiana, and we had arrived in Baton Rouge. And there we had the option of jumping from Trailways to Greyhound or one of the other ways, and we could switch our tickets over, and then we could get home earlier, like 4 or 5 hours earlier. And we were like, we had to do something. We couldn't handle. I mean, the bus already ride was like, that was a long bus ride. Anyway, I remember we had to go from one bus station to the other till we could exchange our ticket. And as we were walking through this part of Baton Rouge, we were in our Class Bs, actually, which were at that time, which were the light green shirts and the forest green pants, and our leather shoes, which I hated. I love being on jump staffs because I didn't have to wear those damn shoes. Not that I love the jump boots anymore, but those shoes, I got blisters every time I looked at them. And then we had to walk across town to this other bus station, which was only like maybe, I don't know, 500 meters away. It wasn't very far. And I remember it was pitch dark, like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and we were walking. And beforehand, I'd bought like a roll of quarters so I could make phone calls or use machines, that kind of stuff. So I had like a $5 roll of quarters on me in my pocket. But it wasn't in the roll, it was just in the quarters because I'd used some of them. And so I had to call my dad, tell him what we were doing. So we were going across town, and out of nowhere, you know, this guy like sort of says, "Hey," you know, like that, and reaches his hand up, and Toddy grabbed me. He was behind me, grabbed me by my shoulders, my arms, and he picked me up and turned me towards the guy, using me as a shield. And he was shaking so hard. I had my hands in my pockets. He was shaking so hard that you could hear the rattling of all this change in my pockets, you know. And the guy said, "Can you spare a dime?" You know, like that. "Can you give me some money?" You know. And Toddy just told me in my ear, whispered to me, he goes, "Tell him no." I was sitting there shaking, like, I looked at the guy like, "No." Toddy was like, he just sort of like grabbed me. He just sort of kept walking with me, you know. I mean, we kept going, you know. And we went down and we were able to exchange our tickets and then come back. And we went back through. The guy wasn't there because Toddy was like really all up behind me. I was like, "Dude, you're bigger than me. I mean, what you gonna do? Throw me at him or something?" And I wouldn't have doubted if he wouldn't have done that. I mean, he would have definitely thrown me at him. But then we got back and got on the bus and made I think it was 5 hours or 4 or 5 hour drive from Baton Rouge to Alexandria, Louisiana, where my dad was waiting on us. And Toddy and I got in the back seat of my dad's truck, pickup truck. He had a little Chevy Love or something like that, or Ford, whatever, I don't know what it was. And then Toddy got in the front, and we drove Toddy to where he lives. He got out, and that's the last time I saw him, sadly. I mean, I still had another year of school to do, and I guess, you know, I don't know if he was going to college or what it was. I don't remember the backstory of too many of the guys that I did go to basic training with, because we were in completely different organizations, and we did completely different things. And like I said, I was the only infantryman. But what I remember very well is that there was one kid named Decker, a redheaded kid, and he was in the 4th Squad, and he was across the bay from me. And he actually, I spoke to him on the phone last year, I believe. I called him, and because he's friends with, or he's acquainted with my cousin's daughter, and just you know, it's just something like that, you know. And but anyway, I got back home and then working with the recruiter and this kind of stuff, and then a year later, after I finished high school, some things that happened while I was in basic training was that I met my girlfriend for my senior year, and I got a letter out of nowhere from this young lady, who was actually a few years younger than I was. I mean, she was, I think, 14 or 15, and I was 17. And we went to school together, and she wrote me out of the clear blue, and we kept writing, and then she had thought I'd left. You know, I guess there was some kind of conversation that no one had heard from me since I'd finished high school, and then she'd found out, I think, from my mom or something, or one of my sisters, my address, and wrote me a nice letter. And then I got back, and we started dating, actually. It was a good experience dating her. It's also the worst experience because it just, you know, you're young and dumb, and that's what it was. You know, I always wanted to apologize to her for my 1 year of being a scruffy male around what I thought was just such a pretty little girl. You know, and but now she's happily married, and she has nothing to do with me on Facebook. So I guess she's still holding a grudge. But anyway, I apologize, Amy Foster. I think her name's Amy Terrell now. But anyway. You know, back then we used to write letters all the time. And my nephew, my brother Kevin's son, he joined the Army this year and went off to Fort Leonard Wood to become a military policeman. Well, there's a little backstory there, is that he had an operation on his knees, actually, one of his knees, I believe, when he was in high school. He pulled one of his knees. The kid was like, my brother, he was really into athletes, you know. He's very athletic, into football and into rugby. And my brother has a video of this kid. He got the rugby ball, and he my brother had put him into a program, a sprinting program, where he learned to. I mean, he built his body up to sprint very quickly. And there's a video of this kid. He got the ball, and all you see is a blur whoosh, across the screen of him with the ball. I mean, no one. They just missed it. You know, he was so fast, and he finished high school, went off to college, didn't finish his first semester. He just really wanted to go in the military, and so he had moved back home and gone that route. You know, but the problem is that he blew his knees out after like maybe 2 or 3 weeks in basic training, and then they determined they were going to medical him out, which is really irritating to me because I remember my brother and I were talking that back in our day we just would have done it, you know, we'd have kept at it, you know. And I remember my knees were giving me problems, but I just kept at it. But I didn't have a surgery. I hadn't had a surgery like he had, so I don't know. You know, the Army allowed him to go in like that, but the sad thing is that, and I guess it could be considered sad, but he stayed. He's still there actually, and he got to watch his basic training class graduate from basic training. He did everything with them except for 2 things: the final PT test, and he didn't do the final road march. But he did everything else, qualification, everything. Although Brody, I heard you qualified only marksman. That lets me down because you know what, your dad and I, we're all experts. Anyway, yeah, it's really irritates me. So I'm hoping that he can come home, maybe recover, maybe have to have another operation, get himself situated, because the kid is super fit. He's like this much taller. He's a head taller than his dad and I are. We're both 6 foot, and his dad may be a little bit taller than I am. And he looks just like us too. I mean, he has the same face, but he's in his same body, but he's super fit. I mean, muscled up, the whole works. Although I'm sure in basic training that, you know, that he lost a lot of that muscle mass. But yeah, I'd like for him, maybe if he can get out and get back, get a nurse, have a surgery, get recuperated, and maybe try to go into the Air Force or the Navy, something a little bit less physical, because you know, he's a good kid, and I'd like to see him accomplish his goals. And he wanted to be in a military policeman or security because he actually his future job he'd like to get into the police department, you know. But yeah, it just sort of it's tough, you know. I mean, I know my son is interested in the Navy, the U.S. Navy, and he's a very bright young man. Although he's going to a German university, I don't know how that would work, but I'm sure he'll probably have to, once he's finished, he'd get out, and I don't know if he could even, you know, how that would work, but I think he would go in the Navy, U.S. Navy, speaks 3 languages, and very smart. I think he would do really well in the communications or in military intelligence, actually, because he's got that mindset and my daughter, she's studying psychology, criminal psychology, actually, criminology and psychology. And she told me one day, yeah, I'm thinking about, I wouldn't mind going in the FBI or something, which I dropped my chin, you know, like, ooh, great news. I mean, you know, my family, the Box family, we're very much for service. You know, we've given a lot of service in our life. My father was very much a service giving person. My grandfather also, and my brothers also. I mean, I work to try to help people. You know, I work with the Boy Scouts of America, with my son in the program, and still I'm here. You know, although not so much now active. I'm not as active as I used to be. I used to teach adults, that kind of stuff. I've gone through a lot of the programs, Wood Badge program, this kind of stuff like that, which I really enjoyed. I'm someone, if I get into something, I get in it all the way. You know, and so I don't believe in halfway doing things. So, but I really enjoyed the scouting program, and I'm glad to see that the Boy Scouts of America have opened up their program to everybody, because it needs to. I don't want anything stopping my daughter. You know, I don't believe they should lower the standards for anybody, and this is across the board with the military or anything else. And I was discussing this with my daughter yesterday. Is that, you know, how would you feel if there were, you know, if there's, you know, just because she's getting a really good, she's in a really good program right now. And how that compares to other programs, you know, they have, you know, from 1 to 10. And I think she's in a very, very good program. And so, I mean, how would she feel if you know, someone who went through a lower program was chosen over her for any other reason except for, you know, your qualifications, you know, or your works or what you put into it. So I think that's a mistake that I keep hearing across the board. I don't believe that's necessarily happening. I think it is happening in some aspects of the U.S. Army. I worked for 3 years at Military Intelligence Battalion, and I saw firsthand some of the worst NCOs of my life. And I spent some time in the S4. And when I got sent to the Gulf War, they needed one of these NCOs in the S4 was supposed to go also. And she bucked and cried and complained and all this kind of stuff that she has children and all this kind of stuff and that she couldn't go. And in the end, she didn't go. And that's one of these things that really irritates me, is that she didn't go. What should have happened to her is that she should have gotten her ass kicked out of the Army. You know, that's what should have happened. Because you let some private or some specialist say they're not going to go. And I remember going to the airport. I was flying over with some unit out of Kitzingen, Germany. Now, out of the 103rd Military Intelligence Battalion, I was the only person who was sent to the Gulf War out of the entire battalion. The battalion didn't get rolled up or anything like that. It was just me. And I volunteered to go. I put my name on a list that if they need somebody, I would go. And I really enjoy, and I know, and that experience was special, okay? But when you see people who are in the military refusing to go somewhere, you know, and I remember I was flying out with some unit out of Kitzingen, I don't know if they were artillery. I think they were ADA. No. They were MLRS or something like that. And I remember being at the airport with all my stuff together. Now listen, when I flew over there, there was no desert gear, you know, and this kind of stuff. And stupidly, I didn't even bring any winter gear with me. I brought Gore-Tex. I didn't even bring my Gore-Tex jacket, which I owned. It was one I'd gotten issued to me in the previous unit I was in. And I left it at home because I thought, I'm not going to need a Gore-Tex jacket. You know, it's going to be hot over there. That was a mistake on my part. And it's probably the last time in my entire career I made that mistake. I learned from it very well. But get back to the point, there was 5 members of that unit that had ran off. And I think 2 or 3 of them tried to rob a taxi to bring them somewhere far, and the taxi driver beat them up and brought them back. And then they were on the plane in handcuffs, you know. And when they got over there, they were unhandcuffed, and then they were given weapons, and then they, you know, I didn't see them anymore after that. But I was like, what in the hell is going on? You know, what is going on here? You know, at that time I'd also met my now ex-wife, but I think that in the papers you were talking about like 10,000 people, 10,000 soldiers expected to be dead from the American Army, you know, fighting that battle. So I don't think anybody took us serious that a lot was going to be coming back anyway. But you know, what I see and what I keep seeing, I see some good soldiers standing up in the U.S. Army now, females and men, you know, trying to get themselves educated and do good things. When I was in, I saw commanders not allowing soldiers to attend schools that could really make their careers for them. Because they said, well, you're so important to this unit, we need you, you know. That is complete bull. Okay, that's complete bull. Any soldier, from the supply guy to the NBC guy to every infantryman in the unit, should have the right to in an infantry battalion, to try to attempt Ranger School, Jump Master School, if you're on jump status, Pathfinder schools, all this stuff, you know. And it should be more readily available to all these support MOSs too, because, you know, you look at the support MOSs, I remember back in the day, you could not get a supply guy or anybody to go into the Ranger Regiment, okay? You couldn't get anybody to do that, you know? So a lot of your guys in the Ranger Regiment who were hurt, they were in these jobs. They were in these positions, you know, not being able to, and it's hard getting out of your job, you know, getting back into your field once you've learned, you know, figured out you know how to type, you know about all this kind of stuff. It's not that way anymore now. Now you see a lot of guys. I'm connected to the 75th Ranger Regiment's recruitment, and like a lot of guys are, a lot of people are, and seeing, you know, the amount of soldiers who are volunteering after the fact while they're in the middle of AIT, whether it being logistics or whatever, attempting to get into Ranger Regiment. I think it's fantastic. I even would go to the point that we need to maybe even come up, they need to enlarge the regiment a little bit, even more, like when it comes to, right now you have a regiment, you have 3 line battalions, but maybe develop a 4th battalion, a 4th line battalion, I think there's a demand there. And I think the United States needs a stronger force like this, and yeah, I think it's a better way of going, in the future, to get more and more people, When I came in '86, if you had one tooth missing, they questioned that. They looked at everything about you. And I got lucky when I went in 1986, because the year before, when I was 15 years old, matter of fact, it was the last day of August. I was in a severe car accident, and yeah, it changed a lot of lives. I won't talk about that in the next video, but to get back to the point about right now, I love my time in the Army, and I would do it again tomorrow if I could. A lot of people say that, but I really wish I could, because I'd go for it. I really enjoyed. I would go back to day one. I wish sometimes I was that 17-year-old boy again. I'd wait a little bit longer to get in. Maybe, I remember I did some training with officers programs, that kind of stuff, and I was asked if I was interested in becoming an officer. I'd maybe contemplate that a little more, But I think that my time on the line, I think that if anybody says that wasn't the greatest time of their life, they weren't on the line, or they were they just weren't ready for it, But I love being on the line, I loved what it meant being on the line in an infantry unit, and best job ever, especially when you're with your brothers, there was no color except for green, and that's what it should be. Nowadays, I don't think sexuality, this kind of stuff, ever came into play. There's a lot of banner, a lot of playing around this kind of stuff. But if someone was, sadly they could, sadly during that time they couldn't be open with it, But that wouldn't have mattered anyway, especially to me. I really didn't give a shit about that stuff. I was, something someone, we were talking about scouting earlier, and when I was involved in scouting, someone had said that, well, scouting doesn't need to have homosexuality in it, or gay scout leaders, this kind of stuff. I look at it like this right here. I don't come to scouting to be a heterosexual man. I come to scouting to be a man and to be a leader, but I don't bring the sex in it, and it shouldn't be in it. Shouldn't be involved in it. Especially with scouting today. And for a long time, there have been some horrendous things that's happened in scouting. And a lot of people tend to want to blame the program for it. The program is good. It's like, and people I hear this from are the same people who cry about gun ownership. They're the same ones that say, well, guns kill people. No, people kill people. And bad adults and youth do bad things also. Okay? And that should be weeded out and should be fixed and should be really, but all these, don't go after the organization, go after the individual, okay? Don't go after the guns, go after the individual. I know this is a strong statement, a strong conversation, and some people will and will not like it. But you know what? It's like I don't see people complaining they're not, when people are overdosing, it's the person who did this to themselves. And I got stories about that I can tell you, and I will, okay? I'm not here to call people out. But I am here to talk about things, and one thing I want to do is that everybody understands that I'm being open with this. All these conversations are about me getting things off my chest and about me. This is my therapy, okay? Talking about these things. And also, my kids know a lot of these stories also, but also it's about them having this little background into my history, into my life, And but like I said, I'm sure there's going to be some people out there that don't like me necessarily talking about certain things. But you know what? Get over it. If you did something wrong and I say you did something wrong, okay. Same with me. If you said I did something wrong, okay. If I did it wrong, I'll man up to it. That's the way it is. But anyway, I want to thank you guys, and we'll talk more about the military in the future. I need to start writing down what I need to talk about because this is all brand new to me, and I really have a long way to go. But like I said, I hope that if there's anybody out there who has some great stories, contact me, let me know about them. I really look forward to reading them in the comments, and I'm here to answer any questions you guys may have. And we can discuss things on video. I have no problem with it, And anyway, I want to thank all of you for joining me. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and a like. And I don't know what that's going to do, but I guess it'll make me feel like I've reached somebody, And leave any comments that you have down, whether good or bad. I'm a big boy. You don't like it? Okay, tell me. Because, I'm open for discussion. Anyway, listen, you guys have a good one. Happy Sunday, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye.